welcome to Jersey City Pilates. Today we're going to cover a couple of modifications that you can use while laying on your back, and they kind of run the gamut of ways that you can modify all different types of exercises in Pilates. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about is your ribs. So if you've watched some of my other tutorials, we talked about rib engagement and abdominal breathing, or abdominal engagement and lateral breathing. And also if you've taken my classes, we've talked about closing the ribs to help be connected through the front of the body. So for this modification, you will need a towel. You can use a beach towel, a dish towel, a blanket, anything that you can roll up to be an inch or so high. And so I'm just going to move the towel out of the way for a moment to explain. So come to lay on your back, and as you lay down, you'll notice that your ribs may want to flare open. And for me, my back ribs, if I put my hands underneath my back, they want to stay lifted off the floor. And so sometimes I find that I have to work really hard to keep a neutral pelvis and to bring my ribs together and then down in the back. And I find that sometimes I arch my neck. So even if your ribs are staying connected, they're staying down and not flaring, but you find that your neck is arching, you're just going to take that towel that's not very thick and you're going to put it underneath your neck so that your head is in line with your spine. And then now when I bring my ribs down towards the floor, I'm in a neutral pelvis, it's much easier for me to find that connection with my legs. So for the rest of this video, I'm just going to leave the towel where it is because it will still help me. And we're going to talk about when your hip flexors are kicking in or when your neck is tired, any of those types of things. There are a couple modifications that you can do. The first one is just, if you're lifting your upper body, you just bring your legs down and you'll return to this position where your knees are bent and your feet are gently pointing into the floor. Whenever your legs are on the floor like this, you want to make sure that your knees are straight in line with your hips and not falling out to the side. And by doing that, you can think about squeezing an imaginary ball or towel or block or something within your knees to help keep those inner thighs engaged and your legs nice and parallel. So while we're continuing to talk about things where you're lifting your head, you can always go into a scoop instead of a neutral pelvis to get a little bit more support. And to do that, you're just going to bring your ribs towards your hips. Your other option, besides or in addition to doing this, is just to leave your head down. And you can do all the exercises with your legs extended, with your head down, ribs pressing into the mat. But if you're doing an exercise where you're in tabletop and your head is down, or your head is lifted, I guess it doesn't really matter. If you're doing an exercise with your legs in the air, you have a few options. You can let your knees go straight up towards the ceiling and drop your heels by your glutes. And when you're doing any sort of lowering or lifting of the legs, just moving from the thigh and to the knee and not worrying about the rest of your leg. Your other option is to return to tabletop instead of a straight leg position. So if you're lifting and lowering your head and you want to, everyone is keeping their legs long, you can just bend yours. Other options, when your legs are extended to a 45-degree angle, if you start to feel your back lifting and that scoop isn't helping you enough, don't keep lowering your legs. Bring them up towards the ceiling, bring them to a 90-degree angle. You can bend your knees all the way, a little bit, or completely. All of these options, as I said, are modifications, but it doesn't mean that you're making the exercise easier. It might feel easier for a moment because your body isn't struggling to keep that position it was in, but that's actually a great thing because you don't want to have your body try to do things that aren't working for it. You're better off just bending your knees, lowering your head, putting your feet down, and getting the work from the exercise that is meant to do with ease and fluidity. And it'll help you get stronger, and maybe eventually you'll be able to extend your legs, lower your head, or lift your legs. Also, sometimes it just depends on the day, and that's okay too. I hope this helps. Thanks.